right, I think we're about live. Let's see here. I'm checking. Looks like Twitch, we're online. Checking Mixer. Waiting for Mixer to come online. Come on, Mixer. Waiting to see. I'm trying out Mixer this week. I was encouraged to take a look at Mixer as another place to output and start delivering some content here on the stream. And it looks like we're broadcasting okay to both sources. All right, cool. Hey, welcome back to my stream. My name is Jeff Fritz. I'm a web guy. I like to build web stuff. I work for Microsoft. I do a bunch of things on the .NET team there. And today, I'm going to work a little bit on a Visual Studio extension that I've been tinkering with. This isn't an official project, but we're going to work on this extension that I conjured up called Epic Build Music. And the idea with this extension is I want to have a little fun with Visual Studio. I want to make sure that when I do something successful in Visual Studio, we get rewarded. Happy music goes off, fireworks, whatever, right? And while I'm building my project, I'd like to have some cool music play as well. So that's the idea of that project. So a couple things. Every week, every stream, I wear a different hat. I've got a collection of hats that I like to wear. Today, I'm wearing my Microsoft hat. You can see the logo there. Folks asked me to try out Mixer, so I'm trying it out, and I'm wearing the hat for Microsoft because I'm trying out Mixer today. So you can catch me either on Twitch, twitch.tv/C#Fritz, or over on Mixer, mixer.com/C#Fritz. I'm also going to start burning, it's over there, I'm going to start burning in the chat messages here, and I've got a unified chat stream using the services from Restream.io. So any messages that come into the chat room, either on Twitch or over on Mixer, will all be unified and be delivered right there. Finally, and that'll stick around when we do go over to our code and we start taking a look at that. Of course, I'm going to start playing some background music, and today I'm going to be playing another song from Carl Franklin's Music to Code by. This one is called Green. This is the first of the second album that Carl wrote. There are 13 songs in the Music to Code by albums. You can go to mtcb.pwop.com, and you can order those. And he's also started work on a series of apps that you can download for your phone called Music to Flow by, and you'll be able to get the songs for free there. First 3 songs are free, and then additional songs will come along and be available for you each month. Thank you very much, Carl, for letting me use some of your music in the background here. It's very groovy, very relaxing, and helps us stay focused as we're working on our code. All right, speaking of code, let's go over to the project. Here we are. See, look at that. I'm in the lower right corner again. We've got stuff appearing here on the left, and we've changed out the layout slightly. You can see the chat there above me, and my follower count is in the top right corner, now with both Twitch and Mixer numbers. So the viewer count's up there, and the followers, I don't know why the followers didn't update, and it should be counting both Twitch and Mixer, but it doesn't look like it's got the total between the two streams up there. I'm not quite sure why. I'm trying to take a look here at my Mixer dashboard so I can see what's going on. And it's definitely not the same as Twitch. So when I manage my channel, yeah, it's not showing me a live dashboard over here as to exactly what's going on. So it's going to take a little getting used to for me over here to be able to see what's going on in the chat room and be able to manage things. But I do have Twitch, and I do have what's going on over here on Mixer. And since I'm using a restreaming service, I'm going to keep an eye on that. But we'll see how this goes, right? Got to try something new, got to push the boundaries a little bit, get uncomfortable before we can truly learn something. All right, to the project. This is Fritz Epic Build Music. It hasn't been released yet. I'm still working on it. But from last time when we were working on this on Saturday, Saturday morning at 10, we fixed some of the issues that I had with the start and stop of the music, right? It wasn't properly starting and stopping when projects began building or failed building, so we got that cleaned up. I see a message in the chat room. Smudge202, I like the sound of your setup. If I ever stream again, I'll definitely check that out. Cool, thanks a lot, Smudge. I appreciate it. All right, let's see here. So I've got these couple things going on inside my project here. All my source code is out here. You're more than welcome to take a look at it, fork it, submit pull requests. Of course, submit issues. Now, oh gosh, and Smudge even opened up an item here, concurrent build issues. Let's take a look at this. I'm not sure relevant, but solutions with multiple entry points or orphan dependency trees will typically run in parallel. Could this cause a concurrency issue under those circumstances? And he's looking at line 192. Would an interlocked increment be more appropriate? Let's take a look here. You know what? So you're looking at what Smudge is looking at here. This is from the master branch. We've actually changed the way that this functions, and it's a great question there. Oh, thanks for the follow, Smudge. I appreciate it. So in the updated version of this code, if you look down here, I actually got rid of the project counting and this get projects in solution. This should only fire once, but it'll just give me a list of the projects in the solution if I need it in memory. And even then, I've marked this as obsolete. I don't want to be doing this inside my project. That's going to be messy. So what I'm doing instead is when the solution begins building, when this update solution begin event fires, we'll begin playing, and update solution done. So when the solution finished. So I'm handing off all that concurrency consideration over to Visual Studio, and I'm letting it drive that. And Smudge writes here in the chat room, just switched to dev, didn't think to check, I'll have another scan. Cool, I appreciate you giving me a quick code review there. So I have a music player that'll hand off control to Visual Studio to start and stop appropriately. So let me go back. I'm going to, with respect here, Smudge, I'm going to take this concurrent build issues, and I'm going to mark this as fix in dev and close it. And if we do run into that issue, we can reopen it in the future. So thanks for taking a look. I appreciate you throwing a comment out there real quick. So I have some other issues here that I wanted to address. I had a concern with default shipping music. Of course, whenever you ship music, you ship somebody else's IP, their intellectual property. You're going to have questions and challenges, particularly from the music industry, around ownership and licensing. So I wanted to make sure that we shipped something that was free, that was not public domain, but available for Creative Commons redistribution. And Check Digits, who was tuned in on Saturday, did some looking out there, and he found a modem carrier sound that was available, was free to use, free to redistribute, and grabbed it, republished it under Creative Commons, and has it available for us over here on his GitHub. I'd like to pull that in and make that part of our default here. So let's do that. Let's grab his sound, bring it in, make that the default, and then we'll start working on setting up that options dialog that will allow folks to choose what music they want to play while the build process is occurring. And that'll give us a great entryway as I move into some of those other things, like having a build success sound play, right? I want a sound effect, a trumpet, happy trumpet that goes off or something when you build successfully, maybe a sad tuba when there's a build failure. So different little things there. I need some place to put those settings. So let me start with putting in the default setting here. The default sound, just a modem carrier sound. And actually, let me pause the music so we can hear the modem carrier sound. I'm going to run over here to Check Digits GitHub. I'm going to click the MP3 that he's made available. I'm going to grab that. So if I click View Raw, it should play. There we go. Reminds me of middle school and high school and dialing into AOL and CompuServe and even Prodigy. Yeah. That's... I think for a bunch of us older tech folk, that's pretty good. Issued under Creative Commons v3 Attributions license. Let's make sure I don't violate this license. And this is such a pain in the neck to do this, but you really have to do this so that everybody gets credit for their code, for the work that they've built. Share, copy, and redistribute the material in any medium or format. Okay. Adapt, remix, transform, and build upon the material for any purpose, even commercially. All right. So I must give appropriate credit, provide a link to the license, and indicate if changes were made. So I'm not going to make changes, but I am going to need to provide a link to the license and give credit. Okay. So let's do that. I'm going to, hey, look, sound files were a result of a conversation with me. Hey, that's pretty cool. All right. So I am going to download, let me click this, and I am going to download this. No. That's fine. I don't need to hear this again. Hey, Abdul Karim SE. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate the follow. I hope you've got some comments or insight on how we can make our project better. Let me see. I'm going to, it feels weird, save page as, but I'm saving an MP3. Let me go, and I'm going to save this into fritz.epic build music. Let me go into this project. So there's my Epic saxophone that I've been using for default here. That's the one that I want to use. It's the Epic Sax guy from what was it? The European Music Competition. I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, all right. So I need to provide a link to the license. This. And I need to reference Check Digits over here. Ian Barker is who I need to reference. All right. So let me go over to my project. I'm going to go to Visual Studio. There's Visual Studio. Let me open my project. And I will throw a attribution in here. Now, does it say I need to distribute that attribution with the binary? Provide a link to the license in any reasonable manner, but not in any way that it suggests. Okay, so I think I need to go into my license file over here in Visual Studio. Come on now, Visual Studio. There it is. All right. There we go. License. I'm keeping an eye on how my CPU and the stream is doing here. Looks like we're keeping up. Do I add it to the end of the license? I think I do. Modem carrier sound is provided, is shared by, and it is Ian Barker under the Creative Commons license. There it is. Okay. Save that. So now I've attributed that appropriately, and I think I can add that to my project. Let me make sure. I'm going to open my command prompt because the way I understand it, all Epic Leet developers do source control at the command prompt, right? Fritz, Epic Build Music. All right, let me go into that folder. There it is. And there's my build over dial-up MP3. So let me make sure that gets added to my project. Now, I think I'm going to have a slight problem here because, oh, let me add the license. And I was tinkering with something about build music package. There's nothing changed there. But let me commit what I have here. Excuse me. Added shared, added attribution for modem carrier sound. Okay. And then I'm going to do a reset hard to get rid of any changes. Good. But I need to get that MP3 in, and I think it's because I have .mp3 in my gitignore. So let's take a quick look at gitignore. And of course that opened on my other screen. Here it is. So I'm ignoring star MP3. I really want to just ignore Epic Sax MP3. So let's get rid of that. There it is. Get status. Cool. Let me add gitignore. And then let me add build over dial-up. Cool. Commit those. Added modem carrier sound. Cool. All right, so that's in. Of course, let's push. Stash those changes. Let's see. We have a comment here from Mordecai Zuber. Hey, how's it going? Good morning. Do you need to link to the file itself in that statement? I don't think so. I think I'm pretty clear as to what I'm linking to. I'm not sure. It feels like that's okay. Let's see. I'm gonna go just check over here on Mixer. Mud Diver. Thanks for joining us, Mud Diver. I appreciate the follow. We're going to be working on Visual Studio Extension here today. So, all right. Let's take a look. Now, see, the alert came up there, and it didn't appear in the event list above me yet. Wonder if it just takes a couple seconds for that to appear. Now, let's see what happens. I don't think I need to link to that specific file in the license. Modem carrier sound. I think that's probably enough. Smudge writes, I was under the impression that dev was the up-to-date branch, but your commit was pushed. No, was it pushed to master? Oh, please don't tell me it was pushed to it was pushed to master. Crap. You're right. Oh, nuts. All right. All right, let's do this. Gosh. All right, so let me merge master. Cool. That looks like it did everything I wanted to do. Okay. And now let me push dev. Revert in cherry pick time. You're right, Smudge. Oh my gosh. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, and isn't this always the way when you're working with source control? You end up, yeah, git merge master. Thanks, Chris. It's my friend Chris Gomez, Space Shot out there. Yeah, that merge master is a pain in the neck. I shouldn't be doing it that. So I went over this way. Let's take a look at the log so that I can back out those couple changes. Yeah, I want to back out down to 420. So if I do a git rebase -i head, let's go ~3. Okay, now I always confuse this. I've got to remember that I'm in VI now, and I've got to use VI keys and not Notepad or something. Wait, back out. You want them gone forever? Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop them right? So watch this. Drop. Drop. Git push origin master dev. I could do that, but I just rebased and removed them. Look at this. Gone. Git push. Updates were rejected because it's behind its remote. Yeah, well, I'm going to force that. Good. So now let's double check because clumsy me made a mistake. So I think I have default shipping music now. I'm going to Control Tab so I can go back up to my master branch. Cool, it's not here. All right. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Rebase-I, the interactive rebase, because I can see exactly what I'm doing. It feels like I have a little bit more control. Chris comments, I like GitKraken for viewing the graph. I think it does a better job than other tools. Free for non-commercial use. You're right. GitKraken is an amazing little tool. I can go either way. But come on, man. Elite developers use the command line, right? All right. I'm going to put our music back on here from Groove. That's better. Okay, ask and you shall receive. So I am going to close this with a comment. Added modem carrier sound to the project and added attribution to check digits in the license. Git log view is time-based, not ancestor-based, and I much prefer to think of Git as a graph with a series of commits pointing backwards. You're right. You're absolutely right. Let's see, any other issues here that I want to hit? C#7 improvements, null propagation. You know what? We'll come back to that, because I want to get into the features here. So I've added that music now on disk. So I should probably have that packaged up and delivered appropriately with the project, so that when you install the extension, it writes it to disk. So let's take a look at that. Let me add to the project. You know what? This would probably be easier if I view all source files here. Don't want that one. Where is it? Why don't I see the build carrier? Right, because when I look here in this folder, there it is. Uh-oh. What did I do now? Ah, I'm on master. Oh, nearly made that mistake again. Okay. There it is, build over dial-up. All right. So now let me refresh over here. There it is, build over dial-up. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to include in project. Here we go. All right. So now that's included. Now I got to check the properties on that so that I deliver it appropriately. Now, it's content. I don't want it included in the binary. So I don't want it as an embedded resource. It's not certainly something that shouldn't be compiled. So let's leave it as content. Copy to output directory. Yes, copy. Copy only if newer. We don't need to copy it every time. Ah, here we go. Include in v6. Yes. Install root. What does install root mean? Specifies which root directory to install the file. By default, the file will be installed to the extension directory. That's easy for me to say. Yeah, that sounds right. Let's deliver it. Let's write it to that folder so that I can take a look and be able to point to it for when my extension is actually running. So I think I can then change if I look here, let me back out my font size just a smidge. So I think here in my music player, there we go. So I have my file name set to this, pointing to my Epic Sax Guy MP3. I think I... can I change this then to just... What's the name of the file again? Build over dial-up MP3. Build over dial-up. Not... There we go. This way, it should find it in the current folder and point to that. I'm hoping. I'm hoping I don't need to specify the full path to it. If I can get away with this relative pathing, it'll make things a little bit easier. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do calculations. Hey, what folder am I running in? Go find that folder and find the MP3 in that folder for my default setting here. All right. Let's see if that works. Dope. All right. So I'm going to click Start here. Now, if you remember, when you're running a Visual Studio extension project, Visual Studio Extensions, that SDK comes with the Visual Studio 2017 installer. When you build a Visual Studio 2017 extension project, it builds the project and it launches the experimental instance of Visual Studio. And for those of you who don't know, this is the way that a lot of the folks at Microsoft who are building features for Visual Studio now write those features. They write them as extensions so that we can update and fix bugs, add new features without having to issue a whole new version of Visual Studio. But there are some bigger pieces to that, to Visual Studio, that of course get delivered every time there's a new version of, and we wait for a new version of Visual Studio. But things like Docker tools, we'll try and ship those as the extension. While they are shipped in the box, you will also see us deliver those as an extension that we can update in case there's a bug. And in order to keep up also with the Docker tooling that we don't have control over. So that's kind of important. I can see my debuggers attached because I've got, there it is over on that side. I've got the orange bar right there on the bottom, indicating that we are attached to the debugger. Come on now, fella. I'm waiting for that Visual Studio experimental instance to start. The first time it starts is always a little bit slower too, I've noticed. Particularly now that I've also updated and installed Visual Studio 15.5. So that's the new version of the update that was applied to Visual Studio 2017. It's update 5. The Visual Studio team is trying to issue updates, new features, bug fixes every month or two to keep the tool feeling fresh. Keep up with some of the new things that we're doing on Azure, some of the new things that we're doing with Docker, and Kubernetes too. Right? We're gonna see some things happen with Visual Studio working with Kubernetes, and that's pretty exciting stuff. Why isn't my experimental instance of Visual Studio running here? I'm seeing this ready flash, and I'm getting worried. Let's take a look at my output window, see if there's anything. Oh yeah, there it goes. So this is the Visual Studio process. It's loading all the DLLs for Visual Studio into the debugger, okay? And it's skipping most of them because I have just my code enabled, right? If I was working on something more closely with the Visual Studio team and I did want to debug and be able to see where something was breaking in somebody else's extension, I'd probably want to see some of those other things going on. But the first time loading, it's going to take a little bit here because it's going through all those DLLs and kicking them out, not referencing them. So in just a few seconds here, we should see it pop up. Come on now, Visual Studio. Otherwise, this is going to take a long time to build. Know what I mean? So there's a Visual Studio. Yeah, there's a Visual Studio splash screen on my other screen down here. So when I stream, I use two screens. I have a top screen. There you go. You can see my splash screen. I moved it up. I have my main screen that you can see that's my stage where I'm actually doing work. And then down below is where I have OBS running, the open broadcasting software, where I assemble all the cool little gadgets all over the screen here, right? So, come on. Where is it? I see an experimental instance here in... Ah, there it is. It was behind my other Visual Studio. So here's the experimental instance of Visual Studio, and this may look weird to some of you that we've got the WPF debugger panel up here. Let's see, Smudge says, you know what you need while waiting for this lengthy build? How about some music? Hey, somebody should write an extension for that. I agree. That'd be so cool. I get it, tough guy. Thanks a lot. Alright. So my experimental instance is loaded, and I've got the circle of patience now. There it is. Come on, I want to click into my file menu, and I want to open a little test project that I have out there. It's a little solution that has a console project and a class library that is referenced by that console project, so that I can actually see the build running and debugging. So I'm going to click into File. Come on now. The experimental instance has gone non-responsive for me here. Come on. Well, that's going to be annoying. What's going on over here in my output window? Threads exiting. All kinds of module built, private assemblies, something died. Oh, look at that, XML editor. That's fun. Ugh. Alright, I'm trying to Alt-Tab back to Visual Studio and it's not coming up. Well, that's bothersome. Let me stop and rebuild. See what happens. Hopefully it skips through all that code that it was trying to load. And we get it a little bit faster. So I've got my Visual Studio 2017 splash screen. Where'd it go? There it is. And we should get the experimental instance loading here much, much quicker. All right. Ah, boy, look at all that stuff going by. This is annoying. Come on. I feel like it would run just as long trying to get in and get the debugger attached if I was if I didn't have just my code turned on, right? And look, I've got thread exiting, but it did not open Visual Studio yet. Ooh. Web method responses. Look at all that going by. Not quite sure what's going on there. All right, let me open recent projects and solutions. There's my test project. All right, I don't need to see all this. Go away. Go back to my experimental instance. I'm trying to bring it forward. Does not want to come to the front. Come on now, fella. No. There it is. All right. And it's gone. What the heck? All right, so I've got some breakpoints that I left here inside my code. So Saturday we set up some breakpoints so that we can kind of watch and see what's going on when each of the events was fired. So let me remove those breakpoints and let it continue. And it's still not bringing up my test project in Visual Studio Experimental Instance. It's not even coming up. There we go. And where's my project? Come on. And the experimental instance is dead. Well, that's handy. What are we doing? Okay, I can see in my other window here. There it is. All right. I bet you didn't know all that code was running behind Visual Studio when you were running it. Okay. So now if I want to look on disk, now that I have that open, and I took all that time, I'm going to look on disk in my Fritz Epic build music folder. Let me bring this up. Come on, resize. There it is. So in my bin folder, because I set those properties on my project, so there's build over dial-up, so it should be running in the same folder. Yeah, thank you. I know that. This should be available and running in the same folder as my DLL, so it should find it when I tell it to launch, to play that music. So let's see what happens here. Cool. So there's my music. It's playing from when, and I say music lightly, right? If this is music to some of you, don't know what's going on there. But it is playing the sound effect while the build is taking place, and this build is taking a really long time in my experimental instance. Gosh. Okay, there it goes. But it did properly repeat. It played the MP3. So my local reference, my relative reference to that project, to that MP3 works just fine. So as a default setting, I'm okay with that. All right, I am going to stop that. I'm going to stop my Visual Studio here. Go back to my actual one that I was developing and close that. All right, cool. Now, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to get in here, now that I've swapped over and I now have default music that I'm shipping with, and I'm not using somebody's unlicensed music. Now I want to start talking about putting in a settings dialog so that I can choose that music. And then we'll look up wiring different events going forward. Coffee, it makes the world go around, huh? All right. So in options dialog, so when I did some research, and I went over to, let me get rid of the Creative Commons here. I went over to docsmicrosoft.com, MSDN Microsoft.com, and there's a great article here, starting to develop Visual Studio extensions. And what are the steps you need to go through in order to build an extension? So I'm not creating project templates, I'm actually creating options here for something that's extending the build process. So the SDK, it ships now with Visual Studio, like I mentioned, but I wandered through some of these dialogues and I got to this screen, creating an options page. In this article, yeah, go away. It tells us how to go through and build this options dialog, which should be pretty simple because I know how to build Windows Forms applications. I just don't know how to, and I haven't built a Visual Studio extension before. This is my first one. I'm a newbie at this, right? So I figured we'd follow this, figure out how to add in. I have one property right now. I have built music. So I figure let's create that options dialog so that we can put that into our tools options window, right? I want this to appear, right, as a branch inside this dialog. Wow, that's big on my screen. Right, I want it to appear here under environment. I want to have Epic Build Music appear, I guess it would appear right in here. And then be able to add your settings appropriately. On the right side in this, it looks like a Windows Forms dialog. So I'm going to try and fill this out with custom controls that allow you to use a file dialog to go find that build music and set it. So let me cancel out of that. Let me go over here. So I don't want a property grid. I do want a custom page. So open our package file in the code editor, add a using system Windows Forms. I know you system Windows Forms. And Smudge asks a question here. Will the dialog be WPF or WinForms? It's WinForms. Can you choose? I don't think you can choose. But this is what this article has. We can ask some of my friends, but if over on the team about that. But from what I've seen and from the little research that I've done, it looks like we're using WinForms. So I'm going to copy this. It's funny, this is only in VB, this snippet, and not in C# also. When in fact, that's not VB. Shh, don't tell anyone. Alright, so I'm going to go up and drop a using statement in here for using system. I'm going to get rid of these link ones and replace that with using system Windows Forms. And then it says add an option page custom class and have it derived from dialog page. Alright, so let's do this. I'm just going to copy that. Go back over here to Visual Studio, and I'm going to drop in a new class at the bottom here. And I will call this, I'll just call this option page. Right? I mean, why do I have to put custom on this? That feels silly. Mixed tabs and spaces, go away. Alright, option value. So let's have, I'm not going to call this option value. I'm going to call this build song, right? Or during build song. Yeah. During build song. Yep, good. During build song. And that default value, let me copy it out of my music player, is this. So my music player class is just a class that wraps the Windows Media Player so that I can send strings into it to say, hey, play this song, play this sound effect. And I've just got some simple commands in there to set a file name and begin open, close, and play that sound. Very simple. All right, so I've got my property here with the option setting that I'm defining. Let's go back over to the article and see what the next steps are. Add a GUID attribute, add an option string property. All right, so we need to add a GUID to the top of this. All right. And I'm assuming that's because Visual Studio keeps track of all these things using GUIDs. There is a Create GUID tool built into Visual Studio. I'm going to use this to generate a GUID for me. Now, curious, you guys are seeing the... No, you're not. It put the Create GUID on a different screen. That's weird. That's just weird. I'm going to click Create New GUID a couple times here. Copy it. And I want just this value. I don't need all this other goo. There it is. All right. I can exit that. I'm going to save. Let's see what the next step is. Apply a second provide option page attribute to the VS package class. This attribute assigns the class an options category and an options page name. Okay, that makes sense. So it's this bit right there. So let's copy that. And look at all the attributes on top of this thing. That's kind of obnoxious, but hey, whatever. That's how we define the meta information about this. And it isn't option page custom, it's option page. And I won't call it my category. I will call it Epic Build Music. And let's just call it Epic. Let's call it General. Is that it? Is that all I had to do? Add a new user control named My User Control to the project. Here we go. So here's where I think we're going to see the actual designer and being able to design what's on this options page. A couple comments I want to catch up on here in the chat room. I know you've skipped over the C# 7 issue for now. Is there a reason not to use newer C# features? Auto-implemented property for the during build song member with a default assignment? Wondering if it's being avoided for a reason or just not a priority. Just not a priority. I don't have a problem using the newer features. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You can go either way. There's nothing wrong with using the older way. And in fact, I'll take your suggestion and let's just do it now. Let's make this an auto property because that is a little bit easier to work with. Get set. Oop, I've got an extra equals there. There we go. I'm fine with that. Thanks, Smudge. No problem to go and do that refactoring. Make things a little bit easier to manage here. Check digits. Joined late due to meetings. Meetings. They make the world go round. I used to have a saying when I was working at a startup. Visibility is everything, and unless we have a meeting to discuss it, I don't see what you're doing. Even if you've sent me an email, even if continuous integration says that stuff's getting done. So we need a meeting to see what's getting done. However, because we're in a meeting, nothing's getting done. Isn't that always the way? All right, so I have my dialog page. I'm going to move this into another file because I like one class, one file layout. So now, where is it? Option page. There it is down there. Good. So the next thing it said was to create a user control. So let's create a user control. I'm going to add new item. User control. All right, and I will call this general options user control. Cool, I've got a user control. So now, in the properties window in the toolbar, click the events. Excuse me, and double-click the leave event. The new event handler appears in the code. Okay, we need a leave event. So events, leave, and we'll generate that leave event. All right. I just did a Control-Shift-S to save everything in my project. Make sure that it's all committed to disk. Add a public options page field and an initialize method to the control class, and update the event handler to set the option value to the contents of the text box. It wanted me to add a text box. Fine. All right, so okay, so here it's getting a reference to the options page and initializing that string appropriately over here. Okay, So really, we're passing that page and the settings from that page back and forth. So let's do that. I'm going to create that internal, and we called it, what was the name of that page? I called it option page. So internal option page, and I'll just call it option page because naming things, it's easy to do. Let's make this a property just because I get paranoid if it's only a field. In initialize, we need to initialize. That's fine. Public void initialize. Now, it was suggesting we set this into a text box. Well, I'm going to actually browse and find this file on disk, or have a specify default, right? I think I have a default value here that I want to use. So let me go back over to music player, right? Because this is where I want that to end up. So let's do this. Let's create a constant. Public constant string default file name, and copy that. Darn it. There we go. Stop that. Alright, so now I've got a default file name, so I can check to see if the default is set if these two are equal. So I don't need to be in the control yet. Inside the control here, let's give us some space to work. Oh, and then I get to use the toolbox. Where's the toolbox? I haven't used the toolbox in forever. Toolbox. Why is it over here? Whatever. Alright, so let's create a label. No, I don't want to click on the label. Go away. What the? Whoa! Whoa! Now I've angered it. Oh, the fun. I'm getting text messages from my wife. Do I want to continue? Yes, ignore that error. We'll fix it. My label's gone, actually. Properties. Yep, my label's gone. Alright, that's fine. Label. And, LBL will make this file name, build, during build. File name. Actually, no. Look at that. I'm Hungarian notation this, right? It should be label at the end. All right. Where's that caption? Right? Caption? Text. That's what it is. All right. Music to play during build. Cool. All right. And I'll end up having a file picker next to that, and I want to have a default label below that. So let's move that there. Default music during build label, right? During build file name label. Yeah, that's fine. And then this text, make default music. All right. Where's my toolbox? So let me put a checkbox here. Oh, look at that. I put the label next to it. I don't need that text. Go away. And default music during build checkbox. Cool. All right. And then we'll need a file picker next to this, right? File picker, file system watch. No, not folder browser. Where is it? It's the oh gosh, guys, what is the name of this? It's not. It used to be the common dialog. Is that? Do we still call it that? No. This is how long it's been since I've done Windows Forms. It's not a directory search. It's a. I want to do a file chooser. Open file dialog. That's it. There we go. I need the dialog off to the side, right? So I know how to open the file dialog. That's fine. I don't care what it's called. But it's the. Oh, but it's a text box with a button next to it, isn't it? That's what I'm thinking of. See, I'm thinking of the web control, right? Where it's a file, it's of type file, right? Input type file. All right, let's see if we can line these up a little bit better. Because I am not a designer. All right, and we'll call this during build music text box. And I want a button next to it in order to trigger build to open the file dialog so we can go browse for it. So button, I'll put this right up against it. And I don't need a during build file open. No. During build music open button. Whatever. And I'm going to change the text on this to the 3 dots, right? Isn't that how we always do it? Fancy. All right. Let's see what else is going on here. Nothing in the chat room. What's going on, man? You guys have any input? Am I doing things right? Should I be doing things differently? Let me know. All right. So I think that's all I need as far as user interface. To start, at least. So let's look at the events on the checkbox. Let me start here because I think this is actually a little bit easier, and I've already got stuff that I can point to around this and say, aha, do that. I think on checked changed, right? It occurs whenever the check property is changed. I think that's what I'm going to want to do, right? So when you check it, when you uncheck it, I want a event to fire. Okay. So I have a reference to my options page. I have a reference to this down here. So I need to track somewhere the name of my current song for this, and I need to eventually get it back into my music player, and my music player is a singleton. But is that where I want to keep my settings? I mean, my settings eventually need to end up in there, right? There is a way to store settings, and we'll get into that, I guess, a little bit further down here, right? As to where to store that. Oh gosh, I need to put the control on the page, don't I? All right, hang on. All right, so we created a dialog page, text box. There's my user control, and it's just setting a value back and forth. We'll get into that. I got so wrapped up in design. I was so excited to be doing user interface design. And, ooh, I haven't done that in forever. Let's see. You can use bindings, but I don't think it will work for an options page like that. Yeah, I agree. It's not going to work like this. Okay, in the package code file, add an override for the options page custom window property to create, initialize, and return an instance of my user control. Override iWin32 window. So maybe, who was it? Smudge, you were asking about WPF. Maybe you can, right? Maybe you can force WPF in here in order to use that. So let me do this. I'm actually gonna copy this, and inside my option page, where is it? I don't have it open. Option page. Why are you opening the designer there, buddy? There's my class. All right. So let's paste in that code. So I'm overriding the window. Yep. So var. Come on now. We want it to be a var. New general options user control. Good. Page options page equals this. Good. Initialize and then return that as the window. Cool. That was easy. All right, I'm going to save all of that. So now it should trigger and show my page. And I feel bad about this during build song. Sitting here and I've got the same data copied twice. Right? I've got it over here in my music player and I've got it over here. I feel like I'm going to want to move that file name to somewhere else. Let's come back to that. I don't like it in multiple places. When we start setting those values coming back, I think we're going to need to move how that's being maintained and operated. All right. Let's take a look-see here. I got a couple messages on Twitch. Let's take a quick peek here. What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Nothing important right now that we need to interrupt for. All right. So I've got about an hour to go here. Let's see if we can start wiring up this options page. I'm going to save everything. Let's start and see if we can see the options page inside of... Or wait a sec. I just thought of something. Hang on. In my package here. No! What did it change? I clicked something and it changed something and I see some green down here. All right. I'm fine with that. Okay. So I think we're okay with that. Let's see what happens. Let's see where it ended up if my options page is actually happening and appearing, and if it's showing the entries from my designer. So I'm going to build and get back into that experimental instance, and hopefully it's running a little bit faster this time. And take a look at exactly what's going on. It's kind of funny. I'm looking at my Mixer dialog over here. Have any of you guys looked at Mixer at all? I say guys, but any of the folks in the chat room, have you looked at Mixer? I've got a level, right? It's like I'm playing a game with Mixer, and I'm listed here as level 11. I don't know what that means or what that's relative to, but I'm level 11. That sounds important. I don't know, but we'll see. But how does the quality look on this on the Twitch stream, on the Mixer stream? Does it look like it's keeping up and it's doing well? We're not seeing too many drop frames. I know Visual Studio, this experimental instance is taking its good old time launching, and I'm not thrilled with that. But oh, now we've got the gray window of patience, and actually Visual Studio crashed. It's relaunching. That makes me feel good. Check digits. No pauses. Good. And Mud Diver over on Mixer says things are looking good on my end. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the feedback. So, some of my colleagues said, hey, you got to give Mixer a try. See what you think of broadcasting over there and what the interactions look like. I'll probably dual stream like this for a little bit and then see how things pan out. I've got a dialogue open on my other window here that it's loading user settings, and it'll take a few seconds. And once again, Visual Studio opened on the wrong screen. And it's being really sluggish. Now I've got a dialogue here, loading user settings. Okay, I'm going to dock and resize my window. I'm trying to resize my window. All right, I guess it's settled in here. Let's see. There is a recent project. There it is. I've already opened a bug for that recent projects list not showing when you first navigate into Visual Studio. It feels awkward, feels weird. So, and I'm wondering, the Streamlabs folks, the event list above me here it's only showing the Twitch events. It isn't showing anything from Mixer. So I'm curious as to what's going on there also. Let's see. So did it finish loading? Check my Solution Explorer. Go on. Okay, there's my package. I hope it saved everything. Looks like everything's still here. All right. Go away. I don't want to see that. And the font size changed on me everywhere. That's a little bit better. All right. Let's see. Let me go back to trying to start that experimental instance so I can see my options dialog. I want to see that thing actually appear, and then we can figure out the flow going through there. It's funny how upset folks can get at simple things. I'm getting some text messages. So, all right, here comes the experimental instance. Let's see. And this isn't as fun as I thought it would be with how slow this experimental instance is taking to get up and running. So if you're with me on Saturday, it was launching and I was into that second Visual Studio very quickly, and we were doing it again and again and again. So I think I've got some more feedback to send over that it looks like this has really slowed down on us. Come on. So there's all the stuff loading again, and I'm not using any of these features. I'm not sure why it's loading all of these things. There's my experimental instance. Okay. Let's see. File, recent projects. I want to open that test project. Cool. Loading. And this is a very small project. This should be loading much, much faster. It's telling me it's loading user settings also here. So that's kind of weird. I've got double dialogues. Let's see what else is going on. All right. Where's my solution? So one of the things that they did do for Visual Studio 15.5 is they did change the way that the solution load process happens, and it's supposed to load a lot faster. But in this experimental instance where I have the debugger attached, it looks like I'm blocking and I'm holding something up. All right, tools, options. Let's see where my options dialog ended up here. And look at that epic build music. Yes, and it looks really bad. All right, that's fine. Look at all this other stuff that it loaded up. Why is it loading all these other extensions? Oh my gosh. But when I click on general, it's the same thing. That's fine. But these work, I can click buttons, but I can't see my text on that button, and I need to, gosh, this feels bad, right? Because I was over here in my designer for that user control, and it lined up just fine. So I'm wondering if I'm running into an issue with high DPI and scaling? Maybe? That's... Yeah, I'm willing to bet that's what's going on, is that I have a high even though the stream, and I'm sizing this to a smaller resolution than high DPI, I feel like Visual Studio may be using those settings and scaling improperly here. I'm guessing that's what's going on. But for right now, I'm just going to put some extra space in there just so I can manage what's going on a little bit better. And that Visual Studio is taking a while to close. So let's do this. I'm going to open this up a little bit, and I'm just going to grab these controls. Come on. Where's my designer? I'm trying to click on things. Nope. Won't let me click on things. And gosh, Visual Studio, look at that, it's going fuzzy, not responding. I know I'm pushing my video card a little bit here because of the streaming, but the stream quality isn't dropping, and Visual Studio is really not behaving well. No, I still can't select, and I can't close it either. Look at that, it finally, nope. Alright. There's my box. Okay, let me just move everything over a bit. I'm going to make things a little bit bigger, especially this. Okay, but these are appearing on screen. That's fine. We can work on the actual design a little bit later. So now I can receive values into this, and I can have it go and put that value somewhere. For right now, I want that default music. When this user control opens, if the current music is the same as what that constant is, this should be checked, and I should mark that. I want to make these controls disabled. So let me do that. So on initialize, let's set during build default checkbox, and I'm going to write another method that goes and does that test for me. I don't want to do all that testing here in my initialize. So I'll do a control period fire the contents of my light bulb there, and I can start writing some code to do that check. All right, let's make sure everything's formatted. Cool. So first things first, let's say right, it's, what was the name of that checkbox? This checkbox right here, U. Properties. Default music during build. Okay. Default music during build checkbox dot, is it checked, I think? Yeah. Yep, Boolean. Equals, let me reach through the option page so that we let the option page manage the state of that. So let's say equals option page dot during build song equals equality check against what is it, music player default file name. There we go. All right. So if that's equal, then we'll check it. Excuse me. Let's see. We also want to do. We also want to set the disabled state for the file and the button. So default music. No, what did we name them? Now's here. Here's where I'm going to get a little grouchy and be like, why didn't we name these the same thing? So let's go. I'm going to copy default music during build. And let's name all these things. Oh no, during music during build text box. And I'll move that over here. Music during build. Okay. So I should be able to go back over here and say music during build. There we go. Now I got everything lined up. Text box dot, is it, yeah, enabled equals, and it's going to be the not on that. Cool. Music during build open button dot enabled is the not again, right? So I want to disable that. Now why doesn't it like that? Oh, I deleted my equal statement. All right. All right, so now when the checked changes, I actually want to do these same things. So you know what? Let's move these into another method so that I can set. Yeah, let's move these. Private void. Disable during build controls. No. Set during build controls state. Right? And I'm going to set these to whatever state is passed in so that I don't have to keep running that test. Set during, yep. And I'm going to set it to the reverse of this. So then when the checkbox changes, set during, I want to set the state, the enabled state for the text box and the open button to the reverse of whether or not it's been checked. Default music during build checkbox checked. Right? Because I don't, yeah, this is a generic event arguments. So I think I should have a decent interaction there between those. Okay. So I have a way to interact between those. And then when I leave... Now, right, the sample code that we looked at, when the leave... When we were leaving, it's setting the value on the options page equal to what came in that text box. And that's why it added this leave statement. I'm okay with that. I think we can do that. So that was in option page. So I can say option page dot during build song. You know what? Let's keep it to music. I don't want to use song. Let's keep it to the word music. I'm going to do a refactor. I'm going to do a F2 here. Go to the end of this, and I'm going to change this to music. Press enter, and it just refactored and renamed that property everywhere that it's referenced. And I'm going to change this to music during build text box dot text. Oh, but I only want to do that. I only want to do that if it's not checked, right? If the default is not checked. So if default music during build checkbox dot checked, and I've actually got two different ways to do that, right? I want to come here. There we go. Okay, so let me grab this. So if it is checked, I actually want to set it to the default value. If it isn't checked, and I'm just going to alt down and move that down here into the else. If it is checked, then option page during build music should be the default, which is in music player default file name. And I have a feeling that we're going to end up moving and renaming that as well in the future. Okay, so I'm properly passing back the during build music to the option page. Okay. But eventually I need to get that back into my music player, and it'd be great if it would save those settings to disk. And I'm still not handling the file open dialog here. So I feel like I should work on that file open dialog here next. Let's see, in the chat room, Mud Diver says, I forgot you could refactor like that without ReSharper. Yes! Yes! There's a whole bunch of refactorings that have been added to Visual Studio, and you'll see them here. You'll see them under these light bulbs, and you can do all kinds of refactorings with the light bulbs that appear here off on the side. Those are actually, a number of them come by default inside of Visual Studio, and you can add more by writing Roslyn analyzers that'll analyze your code, and you can provide suggestions as well. And I forget, they call the suggestions, they don't call them fixers, they call them something else. But it's a very simple name for those types of things. All right, so let's handle that file open dialog. So I'm going to go back over to my designer, and this thing, when you double click on it, I want to open the open file dialog. So I think we just called it open file dialog dot, I think it's show dialog, right? And we're going to get a result coming off of that. So let's call that result. Now I forget the type of the result, so I'm just going to mouse over this. Oh, it's a dialog result, of course. How silly of me to think it was something more complex or something simpler. So let's see what's in result. Of course. All right, I've got has flag is the only new thing here. Nope. And I can say has flag based on enum flag. Oh, great. Thanks, guys. Let's take a look back. don't I have to... Aren't there some settings that we need to put on this? Let's look at the properties of the open file dialog. Add extension, auto upgrade enabled. I forget what these properties mean, so I'm just going to open the lower half here so I can try and get some help text down here. And of course, no, there is no help text appearing. Default extension, star MP3. We'll add WAV files and other things later, but for right now, let's just find MP3s, make sure that works. Filter, the file filters to display in the dialog box. Okay, so let's say music files, star.mp3. Oh heck, star.wav, right? We'll look into OGG and other things later, other standard formats. Property value is not valid. Which one? Filter string is not valid. Oh. Really? I can't say music files? Star.mp3? That worked. Star.wav? That's not valid. Inconceivable. I thought you could... Star.wav? Ah, that worked. Okay. Oh, the vertical pipe is so that you can specify other filter options. You know what? Yeah, let's allow them to choose. And that filter, right, should appear. File name. First file shown in the dialog box, or the last one selected by the user. I'm going to delete that. Yeah, that vertical pipe is to allow different definitions. And there's a semicolon between them is what check digits is saying. Well, you know, my sample here doesn't show that. Down on the bottom here. But well, let's give it a shot. I'm going to try what check digits is suggesting here. So all files, star. Yeah, it doesn't like that. It looks like it wants a pipe to declare all files pipe star. Yeah, and it took that. Yep. CodeBytes TV says, I need another pipe. Yep, that's what I did. I had another pipe, and I think we're good. Filter index. Index of the file filter selected in the dialog box. The first item has an index of 1. What happened to zero-based indexers? Huh? I tell you. Generate member indicates if a member variable will be generated for this component. Yeah. Initial directory. I don't care. Modifiers. Visibility level of the object. That's fine. Nope, we don't want multi-select. We only want to select one file. Read-only checkbox in the dialog. Whatever. Restores the current directory before closing. Show help. Sure. Show read-only. I don't care. Support multi-dotted extensions. Sure. Title. You know what? Let's set the title because I think I'll want to reuse this dialog later. Let's set that when you click the button to open it. Validate names. Sure, that's fine. All right. I'm just going to rename this to file dialog. Okay. So now when I click this, I want it to show the file dialog. Okay. And now, can't I say file dialog dot gets the file name or extension for the file selected in the dialog box. The file name does not include the path. Well, I do need the path. I need the full file name, right? Is there a full file name? No. Is it just file name containing the file name in the file dialog box? Is that the full file name? Right? I think that's the full file name, isn't it? Okay. Dot file name. So let's put that into our text box, which was during music during build text box dot text equals Yeah, that works. Okay, file dialog, show dialog. Oh, and I want to set the title for that file dialog. File dialog title equals choose a file to play during build. Yeah, not during during capital build. Is that like during the build conference? You're gonna play this for 4 days during the Microsoft build conference, the whole time. No. So I think we went lower build there, and I think that does it, right? Oh gosh, I don't want to go through building the whole thing here. CodeBytes TV says might want to check for cancel before setting the text box. Ah, good idea. Now is cancel, is that set on the result? Result? No, it's on the file dialog. Right, where is it that we check for if cancel was clicked? Because I don't remember. How do we check for that? File OK. Occurs when the user clicks on open or save button on... That's right, I gotta do this. Right, so that I can handle... Right, I thought that was weird that it was gonna run all back to back to back there. So let me do this. So now I can say... see that cancel event arc. So now... Right, is it... If e dot... there's the check for cancel CodeBytes TV. Thank you. So if it hasn't been canceled, then we want to set that. Cool. Okay. And then I should disconnect this event handler. Dot file, okay. Where's it? File dialog, file okay. Right, because I don't want it to continue adding that event handler here. We've handled it, and this will allow me to reuse this same handler. I want to let that go for right now, because if I'm going to reuse this, I'm going to be doing something else here besides that. Alright, I think that handles my file dialog, and it's going to send it back. So I'll get it in the text box, and I have a thing here that'll put the text box into the during built music of the options page, and the options page has it right there. Now, when the options page is closed or saved, I actually want to put that, I want to put it into some sort of a settings that persists from one Visual Studio session to the next, and I need to get it over to my music player class also so it knows what files to play. And of course, I should probably also do some sort of a check just to make sure that that file actually exists before I copy it over. Because if it doesn't exist, that's going to feel bad. Let's see. I think I want to do that on leave. So, do we add something here that says, can I do path? Here we go. I don't have system.io, control period to bring up using system.io. If path dot, no, it's file dot exists, isn't it? Yeah. And then I want to check my path, which is going to be this thing. So if that does exist, go ahead and set it. Else message box. Yep, message box show. I'm just going to jump through this real quick. During build music file. There you go, string interpolation. Music during build text box text does not exist. Value will not be used. There we go. All right. So I've got a little bit of testing there to make sure that I don't set something, but I still need to get this content from this option page into some sort of settings that are going to be persisted for Visual Studio. So I'm going to go back to my help file here that was explaining and showing us how to write these options pages. So accessing options, you get the value of an option from a VS package that hosts the associated. The same technique can be used to obtain the value of any public property. That feels really bad. Having to jump through and pass types around. Ugh. Ugh. Code calls get dialog page to create or retrieve the options page grid instance. The options page grid calls local settings from storage. Ha-ha! Which are public properties. Where's that? Right? I mean, this is saying it's calling load settings from storage. Is that the first time that we've... Yeah, that's the only time it referenced it here. I don't know. Let's go through to options and options pages. Ooh, look at that. So it's actually going to get it from... Obtain settings from registry under the registry. I'm going to write to your registry, and you're not even going to know it. No. Support for options pages, options page registry path. It's in the user registry. Okay, so we're all right writing to that. We shouldn't run into any security issues. My gut feeling as soon as I saw registry, while I was goofing off to you, was... Oh my gosh, I'm going to need to have admin access to write to the registry so I can just save that I'm playing a modem carrier sound for you. That feels bad. But it looks like we're going to get around that. Tool options page attributes and layout. The provide option page attribute, yes, determines the grouping of custom options pages into categories in the navigation tree. The provide option page attribute associates an options page. Associates an options page with the VS package that provides the interface. Consider the following code fragment. Yeah, I don't care. Attributes and layout. User interface that the page provides determines the appearance of options on a custom options page. The layout, labeling, and description of options in a generic options page are determined by the following: category attribute, display name attribute, description attribute. Right, that's if it was a grid. Accessing options from another VS package. No, I'm not from another package. And it's not telling me how to actually save the settings and persist and work with those. That's not right. How do I get the options? How do I get the settings? It's saying it loads settings. The default implementations of load settings from storage and save settings storage methods persist. Property changes into a user section of the registry if the property can be converted to and from a string. All right. So whatever my properties are inside dialog page will be saved. Well, that's pretty cool. Look at that. My other Visual Studio is still running out here. Go away. Shoo. So now let me look here. So if this is persisted every time, then maybe I shouldn't have my default over here, and when this is initialized, Well, gosh, you need to have it set to a constant. So maybe when I new up this class, maybe in the constructor of this class, which is being managed right now as a singleton over here, maybe I'll go through and use that tool to load the options. Where was it? Where it was showing me to load the options with that weird, get dialog page. Let's see. I think that. All right. So let's see. All right. I am going to grab this and I'm going to use that technique to access that option that was set on the option page. Yeah. So I don't need to have a set here actually. Right? Because this is only referenced in one places where it's opening that file name. So I don't even need a set, and I can change my get to actually go get from that other file. So let's do that. I'm going to get rid of this default value here. And let's do that. Options. And this is option page. I'm going to get dialog page of this. Now get dialog page, it's kind of... So it looks like I need to do that from... Is that from within? Yeah, from within the package class. Okay. So... Okay. So if we have to do get dialog page from within the package class, maybe I do need to leave this as a get set. And let this be passed in. Right? Because I'm going to pass that from outside. Hey, .commie, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate you joining us over here on the stream today. It'd be nice if it told me if you were joining from Twitch or from Mixer. Let's see. CheckDigit says, normally with apps, the properties on app config, and then you refer to settings.something. So, you're right. If I was working with settings, if I was working with a regular console application or a Windows Forms or maybe a WPF application, yeah, I could see it from there. .com is coming in from Twitch. Cool. Thanks for joining us. And that's okay. There you go. Look at this. So for those of you on Twitch, if you look in the Twitch chat room, .com actually wrote out in all uppercase the word Twitch. However, up above me here in the combined chat room, it replaced it with the Twitch logo. Nice. All right. So where was I? So let me go back over to my package, because the package, in the case of the Visual Studio extension, this is kind of the hub. This is kind of our program class for interacting with Visual Studio. So let me do this. So when the options dialog is closed, I'm saving those values off, and it's sitting in that options dialog. I should set the file name that we're playing based on the value coming in from over here. So let's do that. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to look for... So right now it just says begin playing. I need to set the file for that. And I want to play the default build. I want to play the build music that was set and is sitting there in my options page. So let's go find that. So it was saying to do something like this to get that value. And That does feel bad. I want to reference that option page. Give me a property to reference that. So I can just say, set this value. Yeah. Let me go outside of all the package members here. Let's create a property. I'm going to make it internal. It's going to be the option page, and let's call this. If I call it option page, I'm going to run into a collision, a naming collision. Let's just call it options. Yeah. So I'll put a get here, and let's just return. Right, we called it option page, and I can get rid of that. And CheckDigit says that's horrible, the type of thing. I know! Oh, I don't like that at all. That's better. At least I got some nice formatting around it. Let's see here. Alright. So I've got that. Let's see. So now I've got my options available to me. So now when I do my play music, which was down here, there. Music player instance begin playing. So now I need to set the file name to start playing. So let's say music player instance dot file name equals, oh man, I can feel it. Options dot during build music. So that should set my file name, and then the begin playing should trigger. Let's see. Okay, that. So now I'm setting the file name. It should begin playing, and then the stop playing. Let me make sure. Stop playing. I probably want to actually. Oh, good. It is actually closing the file when I tell it to stop. All right. I think that's all I need for right now. Let's make sure it builds. So I just did a Control-Shift-B. Build started. Because what I'm going to try to do now is kind of an integration test. I'm going to try and start it. Open my project. I'm going to do my do a build and make sure that it builds and plays the modem carrier, and then I want to go and open and see if I can get it to read the Epic Sax music and see if it'll play that instead. Why is this build taking so long? Warning, the field cur project is assigned but never used. Let me go clean up some things here real quick, because I don't like having warnings sitting in that. I don't have that label 1. Remember I created an extra label? Let's get rid of that. What was the other error? Current project is assigned but never used. There. Let's get rid of that. Alright. Try to start. Oh, my Apple Watch is telling me it's time to stand. Sorry, it's time to code. Alright, build started. Let's see what happens. So if I've done everything right, I should be able to just see that I should be able to see and bounce back and forth between these two file types, and I'll have a simple options dialog working. And then I think that'll be enough coding for today, and we can end the stream at that point, save our changes, and be off and running. But let's make sure this works. If we need to check to see if we need to do any debugging on that. All right. Come on, Visual Studio. This experimental instance loading. I'm gonna have to give the team some feedback that, hey, what happened to our experimental instance? This doesn't feel good. Come on. And there we go. All right, so let's see. I'm going to click into Tools and Options and see if I can get the my open dialog to work, like we were discussing earlier. And CodeBytes was suggesting that I need to double check for that cancel button, make sure that that's working. So there's Epic Build Music. So everything's disabled because I have the default music. So if I uncheck that, it is enabled. I could type in there. I can click my box and choose a file to play during build. Yes! It should be showing me. I'm in a different folder here. That's okay. Let me go to Fritz Epic Build Music, into this folder. Now, it's not showing me MP3s and WAV files. I'm going to change to all files. Yeah. Right? When I was selected on that, it's not showing me the MP3s. That's weird. Okay, so I'm going to choose this one. And it didn't put the result in that text box. So I've done something wrong there. Right? If we didn't cancel, that text equals the dialog file name. Let's just put a breakpoint there and see what's going on. So I'm going to click this again. I need to use a semicolon to separate MP3 and WAV. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Getting data tip text. Really? It's taking that long? There we go. Okay, so it does have my file name. So music during build text. Okay. There it is. All right, so it punched it in there, and now I can see it. All right. So now if I say OK to that, it should have saved that, and it's now in my settings. And I'm going to come down to Recent Projects and Solutions. I'm going to open that test project. Once again, simple console project with a simple class library that I'm going to build and make sure that it's playing my sax music that I love so much. So yeah, Fossils, I think you're right here. I need to check my filter on that control and set that properly here. Waiting, Visual Studio, just waiting. Here we go. So I'm pausing my normal music to code by music. And there we go. So let's try to build. I'm going to do a Control-Shift-B because I don't actually want to start. I just want to build it. Is it building? Is it building? It's still playing the modem carrier. It didn't load my Epic Sax Guy music. Right? So I didn't properly get that value all the way back. Right? So if I go build, come on. What's so funny, check digits? Rebuilt solution. Yep, and there goes the modem carrier sound. Ah, yes. Nope. All right. All right, so I've got a bug somewhere in there that I need to fix. I think you guys are right about the semicolon. Ah, the modem carrier. Yes, thanks for the contribution of that. It's you can see I've already got it in the mix here, and it looks like it's working properly. that's working properly. I have to figure out what the other piece is here. Let me go find that user control. And let me check the file dialog. Ah, shoot. No. I want to check the properties on this. Let me get rid of that extra event. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Go back to the properties. So you guys were suggesting instead of a comma, there should be a semi? Like that? I'm going to save that. And I think I'm going to stop there. We'll come back and figure out why it's not saving that off. So I'm going to say get status. Let's add in our new things around the general options user control. Add the option page. Commit that. Let's call this first cut at option page. Cool. And I'm going to push those changes into my dev. Fantastic. So now up here, I want to create a new issue, not saving the during build music setting from the options dialog. Let's not say saving, let's say persisting. That's pretty self-explanatory. So I will submit that as an issue. I think that's, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Now, this is an open source project. So if you guys are interested in taking a shot, you think you can take care of this issue, maybe you have a suggestion you want to add. Gosh, who was it? Smudge already sent over a comment about some C#7 improvements that we can add in. That's great. Let's take a look at that and see if we can, see if we can apply some of those changes. Feel free to send me a pull request. I'm more than happy to review it, get it into the mix here. I'm not going to personally touch the code for this project again until Thursday morning when I get back on the stream. But between now and then, you're more than welcome to take a look and put in, some issues. Like I said, some pull requests. I might write some entries in the wiki or in the README, just some simple documentation things, just to kind of move the ball along a little bit on this. I still need some user interface, I'm going to need some user interface help at some point, and I'm also going to need like an icon to go along with this, but we'll figure that out. We'll figure that out later. That's not something I'm concerned about now. I just want to get my build music playing properly, and I think we're right about there at the point where you can select it and be able to trigger it. And then we can look at hooking up some of the other things, some music when build succeeds and build fails. So we accomplished a lot today. I'm really happy that I now know how to build an options dialog, and I think we're properly getting those settings written out to into Visual Studio, but we can dig a little bit further into that next time. So thanks a lot for joining me. I will save this video off. It'll be over on YouTube, and I'll have a quick write-up on my blog talking about what we accomplished, a link to that YouTube video, and we'll move forward, and hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about how to build Visual Studio 2017 extensions. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you on Thursday, 10 a.m.